One great thing came out of that Nintendo Direct. At least I hope it is one great thing. And of course I'm talking about Splatoon 3. Ah! No, really. What I'm talking about is Project something Octopus Project Triangle Strategy. Okay, it's made by the Octopath people, the Octopath Traveler people. Octopath Traveler was a bit disappointing. I think there's some good and some bad. I hope they kind of move on a little bit more from such a formulaic strategy like they had with Octopath Traveler. Why can't I remember the names of any of their games? They must have a horrible name scheme. Project Triangle Strategy. Ugh. Project Triangle Strategy is a tactics-based game using that same art style, and there's no question that you're getting heavy Final Fantasy Tactics vibes from it, which is great. If you just make a competent Final Fantasy Tactics game, I'm on board, and I think they're in the realm of doing that. I played through the entire demo, and I'm going to give you some of my thoughts of it. No more of the old face here. Let's get to some of that footy. Oh, but before we get to that footy, like, comment, subscribe. These things actually matter a lot. Smash that smash button like it's Smash Brothers. I'll never say that well. And I really do appreciate all the comments. I read them, the likes. It helps me out a lot. So if you want a way to help me, please do that. I'd really appreciate it. Let's go to the footy. Here we are taking a look at Octopath. God, that was actually a real mistake. Oh my God. Here we are looking at Project Triangle Strategy. I'll say I find that the large map looks pretty muddy, but once you get into the game, I personally really like this art style. I think it's great, and I think it works really, really well for a tactics game. I mean, there's no question you're getting heavy Final Fantasy Tactics vibes. Heavy Final Fantasy Tactics vibes. And if they can make a good Final Fantasy Tactics again, I'm here for it. Yes, King, bring it to me. Give me your Octopath. Let them travel all the way down to Project Triangle Strategy. What a terrible name. Okay. So having gone through the entire demo, I'm just going to talk about some of the good, some of the bad, what I'm looking forward to, and what I hope they do with this game. First off, this is just a cool feature right here. When you're in conversation, which you kind of do a lot, and you did a lot in Octopath Traveler 2, you can press the X button, and it just pulls up a little image of who is speaking right now and sort of what their affiliation is. I just really like that, especially with games like this. You might start to forget at some point who all these characters are and what they want, and this is just a nice little reminder of who this person is. Also, this is a bit of a double-edged sword. The R button lets you fast forward story. That's great. It's also a little problematic in this game for a few reasons. Well, here's the thing. This game does some really cool story stuff, but from the little amount I've played, it's also a lot of talking. Way more talking than I think they need, and I remember this happening in Octopath as well. Giving me that fast forward button means I'm probably going to start fast forwarding these conversations, which is a little unfortunate because there's some really cool story stuff they do that you would probably want to be paying close attention to. But unfortunately, there's just so much talking that I think a lot of people are going to fast forward this story. So this game doesn't do a lot of things that are unique, which I don't fully mind. I don't think a game has to be the most original thing ever. Stardew Valley does a lot of unique things, but really what they did that first hooked me was just develop the most competent farming sim of all time. So they took a lot of things that we know and love. If this is just a super competent tactics game, I'm ready. But let me tell you about the story things that I really, really like. First, you get to talk to all of your team before a battle and roam around the battlefield. That I feel like I can't remember a time in a tactics game where you've been able to do that. It's very possible this has existed before, but it feels pretty fresh to walk around the battle, find items, places, possibly inspect some things that you can use. In fact, in the second battle, there are 2 battles in the demo. In the second battle of this game, you do get to walk around your battlefield and look at these traps that you can choose to use or not use to light your enemies on fire. And I think that is so cool and so fun. Another thing they do with the story that I really, really like is there's a moment where your team is deciding what action to take next. And you go into the town, you talk to everyone in there and you get information, and then you go back to your team and you try to convince them to go in the direction you want. It's really interesting, and it's cool because you can try to convince them of what you would like them to do, but if you don't do it well, they could still end up voting against you. If you're not able to sway the group, they might say, yeah, but you didn't really convince us, and then there is a sort of a secret but public eventually vote where everyone votes which way they want it to go. And I could imagine that being really, really fun, trying to convince your team of something and then going, no, they still all want to do the other thing, dang it. Or more exciting, feeling really, really great once you finally do convince them of the option you want. Again, I hope that I don't skip too much story stuff to take full advantage of those moments, because I really thought that was unique and fun. We're watching some of the combat right now from the first battle, and you know, this is tough. I like it, but there's nothing in here that really blows me away. Again, it feels very Final Fantasy Tactics, and it feels super competent. I kind of wish there was a little more that I could almost trigger in battle. You deal a critical hit when you attack someone from behind. If you pincer attack an enemy, basically having a unit on both sides of them, you get to have an additional attack when you attack that unit. There are spells that hit, you know, in T-shapes and large, like, sort of bomb-looking effects. You can buff your allies, and I do feel like buffing and status effects feel pretty important in this game, which is cool. I like that. I will say that combat right now feels pretty safe. I don't think they took a lot of risks like they did with their name, the Florida Project. Wait, what was it? Octopath Tragedal? Trigga? Who cares? There is a system inside it that I think is pretty cool, which is a kudos system. You basically get extra, well, they call them kudos, but they're a tally of points for doing things in battle that are kind of fun and more often useful. So if you get to attack an enemy from behind, you get a kudo for it. If you hit multiple people with a single spell, you get a kudo for it. It does seem pretty cool because you can use those kudos later to purchase upgrades. I can imagine myself, because I'm such a completionist a lot of times in games, where I really want to play a battle a specific way so I can get the max amount of kudos possible and purchase some really cool ability. Ooh, this is just a quick thought I had. I'm not sure if the game's going to have a permadeath option, but I personally don't love permadeath in tactics games. I don't play tactics games for the most brutal experience. If you do, then I hope there's a permadeath option for you, but I kind of like that this game lets someone fall in battle and goes, yeah, but they're back. I'll sandwich a couple negative things in here before I get to some more positives. It's just a little bit of a compliment sandwich. Come on, we've all worked retail. So, I think the game runs a little sluggish at times, which shouldn't surprise me because it's the Switch, and this is a demo, so who knows how it's going to run once the game comes out, but I feel like at times the frame rate is dipping down in a weird way. It also could just be the art style tricking me a little bit, but you know, it's a Switch game, and I don't think it runs super well. Okay, and let me talk about the side stories here. There are side stories in the game that look like their only purpose is to sort of fill out some extra information for your characters, which I think could be kind of cool, but they're long, and you're listening to a lot of long conversations. I'm wondering if once the game comes out, I will be more invested in those conversations, but I have a feeling that I'm going to want to skip a lot of them, which could be unfortunate if I need some of that information to help inform some of the decisions I want to make later. So now, back to that compliment, all right? Here's the bread of that. By the way, compliment sandwich doesn't really make sense because you don't talk about a sandwich based on bread. Well, I guess you could say like a ciabatta sandwich. But I think if I'm thinking of a compliment, I would say meatball sandwich, and that's what's inside. So this is just compliment bread. Okay, on to the compliment bread. There's a lot of story. If you like story, it looks like there's going to be a lot of it. I don't know if the story in this game is going to be good, but if it is, that's fun. And everything is voice acted, which is always a nice touch if a game can do it. And it seems like everyone's doing a good job with the voice acting. I mean, maybe this is just me. I'm not ever really too critical of voice acting in games. I kind of don't mind it when it's dumb, and I like it when it's great. So I think it's nice. There's never a time where I'm worried about the voice acting in a game. But again, that's just me. I also really like that they present this idea that you will be making choices throughout this game, and it's not as clear as it's a black and white good or bad choice. They have different sort of vibes to them. There's one that's more utility, one that's sort of more emotional, and one that's something else. Oh my god, there are three of them, like a triangle. Project Triangle Strategy. Okay, I looked it up. The three types of choices you can make are choices based around utility, morality, or liberty. Which, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It is more interesting than do the good thing, do the bad thing. I love choices in games, and I really love with all my heart Dragon Age Origins. And I love that the choices in that weren't always good or bad. There were shades of gray, and I hope this game presents some choices like that. Right now, some of them have been pretty basic. In fact, I guess a little complaint is I couldn't really tell which one they thought was which I know is purposeful, but I was almost reading one of the three choice options and thinking, these are all pretty darn similar. In fact, let me see if I can find that in this video right now. Aha, I found it. I'm a genius. Okay, so I'm skipping through this conversation, and now I have three options. You would have me render a decision here and now. The more I ponder, the more the answer escapes me, and there is a case to be made for either course of action. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they are different, but they're kind of pretty similar. So I don't love that they feel so close to one another. I don't know if that makes sense, but I remember this moment specifically and thinking, wait, why don't these feel different? They should feel different. I mean, if I'm trying to project my triangle into some sort of strategy, I want the triangle to be a different kind of triangle, right? Am I crazy? Am I crazy? So after going through this whole demo, I feel like there's a lot to be excited about, especially if they just nail a Final Fantasy Tactics style game. I'm also honestly a little worried about parts of it, a little worried about the story, a little worried about how it runs. So what I want to see from this game is I want to see something a little spicier happening on the battlefield. It doesn't need to be much, but I would just like a little more oomph to these battles. It doesn't need it, but it feels like, I don't know, maybe if I could use my powers a little more often, if I didn't have to have all my mages kind of charge up for a couple turns. Basically, every action takes one of these little gold squares, as long as it's not, oh my god, is it a gold little triangle? Hold on. Nope, they were little gold diamonds. You know what? That's crazy, by the way. That's a huge mistake. They should be little gold triangles. Okay. Anyway, maybe if you get to use powers more often or something, or there's more of a synergy that you can use with some of your characters, I would really like to see that. I'm excited for this game. It's, besides, I guess, Mario Golf, the only thing that I came away from that Nintendo Direct being excited about. It's a pretty perfect me game, and I really want to see what they do with it. Maybe a little less story. Oh, and let's have those choices feel like they kind of mean something, huh? Project Runway people. Are you watching this video? All right? Tyra Banks, figure this out. All right, well, that's enough of me. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching or listening. As always, like, comment, subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. If you want to watch me play games, I'm Spraggles over on Twitch, Jake Sprague on Twitter, my podcast, Unsolicited Advice. There's a bunch of stuff to check out. I'd really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Mwah!